Okay, we're back at it. We got Donnie Vincent in town. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's unexpected when I get a message from guys like you to sit down and have a chat. You never know really where the work goes.
Everyone under the sun is probably messaging you. Unbelievable. For those watching, huge fan of Donnie's. Hunter, biologist, father, teacher, you're artist, you're all the things.
I'm a little bit of all of that, yeah. A little bit of all of that, yeah.
I remember watching, for anyone that, Google Donnie Vincent, and then what's the 7-minute, Who We Are?
Who We Are, yeah.
That was like my first thing that I saw of yours, and I was like, this is completely different than anything in the hunting space, by far.
Yeah, it was...
And kind of everything you've done, kind of probably your whole career has been different than the traditional hunting space does.
100%. It's Who We Are wasn't even supposed to be seen publicly.
Oh, really?
We made that privately for National Geographic because they wanted to do a TV show with us, with my crew, and they were pitching ideas to us that we didn't like, and so I pitched an idea to them, or rather our crew pitched an idea, where I would go and live with different tribes that still hunt and fish and forage for a living. So I would go and live with them
in
all over the world.
All over the world, okay.
And just kind of experience their culture. And so, but they were basically against hunting. And so they asked me, they said, hey.
National Geographic?
National Geographic. And they said, unapologetically, please just kind of build us a piece and teach us why you hunt. Tell us why it is that you hunt so that we can try to understand it. We'll bring it to our board.
Sure.
We'll let them watch it. And they said, it doesn't have to be cinematic, just do it. And so that's what it was. And we, we made that. And then Kyle Nicolite, who's the director and producer that works at Sick Manta, he said, hey, I think we should make this public. And I said, absolutely not. I talk about PETA in there and veganism and vegetarian. I said, we're not releasing it. I'm not looking for a fight. And then he just kept bugging me, and finally I said, fine, release it. Yeah. So we did, and it was, a massive response. I got so many letters from anti-hunters and non-hunters and people that, but almost all of it was positive response.
Yeah, I'm trying to see how many views have been on it. I'm sure it's absurd.
I think it's in all the different places. I think it might be millions, but
I'm sure it's millions. Yeah. I've watched it.
So that's why we made that, was to. I didn't get in an argument with National Geographic, but I was kind of calling their, because they show hunting on some of their channels and things like that, but it's always wrapped around native cultures and that's kind of what they hang their hat on. So.
Did you grow up hunting?
I grew up, that's all I thought about when I was growing up, but I don't come from a hunting family. My father, he owned some guns, but what really inspired me beyond words, he had quite a book collection, and he had books on, and I didn't fully understand this growing up, but then
Where'd you grow up at?
Connecticut.
Oh, really?
But then I realized my grandparents gifted him all of these books when he was a boy. So there were things on wilderness survival and wilderness cooking and hunting, fishing, and I just would read these books when I was a kid. But this is literally all I've ever wanted to do.
Really?
It's a fascination with wildlife, and then turned into I didn't realize why I wanted to hunt when I was a kid. I wanted to hunt, wanted to go places, wanted to have a weapon in my hands, wanted to take an animal's life, and at first it was kind of me versus the wilderness. Like, I wanted to be strong and fit, and I didn't want to be afraid of bears, and I wanted to shoot big rifles. And then I went on my first big game hunt for black bears in Alaska, and as soon as I had my first real encounter with a bear.
How old were you?
Probably in my early 20s, and when I saw that bear, I realized how much I didn't want to shoot it.
Yeah.
And just watched him move, and I was sitting on a beach, and there were herring gulls squawking, and the tide was coming in, and salmon were running up this little stream, and I was sitting on a log, and I saw that black shape kind of materialize from the forest, and And then I started looking at him rather than just looking and saying, hey, there's a bear. I'm going to raise my rifle, put my crosshairs and kill it.
Yeah.
I started watching the bear. You know, I started looking at his body, his nose, his toes, and watching him kind of be a bear. And I didn't shoot him. Mm-hmm. And then that night, I was living on a fishing boat that was converted to kind of like sleeping quarters. And the captain of the boat, he just ran me out. We were in the Prince William Sound, and he ran me out for probably 10 days. And so that night, he and I were having dinner, and he asked me, he said, did you see any bears tonight? I said, yeah, I saw a big one. And he said, oh, how come you didn't shoot, you know? And I just said, yeah, I don't think I'm going to shoot a bear. And he started asking me why, and I just said, I don't know. I just started watching his eyes, and I could see him. You know, bears, they kind of articulate the end of their nose when they're smelling things, and I could see that the bear saw me as well. I could just, you know, we had a moment, if you will, and the closer I looked at the bear, the less I wanted to hunt him or shoot him. Mm-hmm. And so I was telling this to Ron. His name's Ron Johnson on the boat, and he just said, hey man, like, I think you're more of a hunter than you realize. The things that you're saying to me is what makes a hunter. Yeah. And he's like, your appreciation, understanding, and kind of being enamored with that bear is part of you entering into predator and prey, part of you entering into the ecosystem, and part of you, you know, we have to kind of remove ourselves from being human and kind of enter into the ecosystem and become part of it. And so,
yeah, you talk a lot about, like, you know, the responsibility of killing an animal and being out there. I mean, and you go out there for 2-3 months at a time, and like you were in that space. Yeah. And there's not a lot of people out there that hunt. Like, most people think they just go hunting, you know, pull the trigger and that's it. Yeah. And there's a lot more to it than just that. Yeah.
If you're present and you're aware of what you're doing, where you're going, and why it is that you're doing it, it's way more. Mm-hmm. It's way more. It's more than just, obviously there's camaraderie that comes along with it. You go with friends, you go with family, you know, you spend time with your parents or buddies, brothers, sisters, whatever. But it's, you know, taking an animal's life is a big step, and then eating, you know, skinning that animal, breaking it down, carrying it out, eating that animal. I mean, it's a really rewarding aspect of being alive and living.
Sure. Yeah. And I mean, in the Who We Are thing, like you talk about, like, we all come from that type of life.
Not only do we come from hunters, not only do we come from warriors, but human beings. That's how we've evolved. That's how our brains became so big. That's how we became so adaptable and having understanding. As we foraged for meat, we scavenged for meat, and then we hunted for meat, and then we cooked meat. And in doing so, we gave ourselves an evolutionary catalyst to becoming human beings. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's literally who we are. It defines what it is to be a human being.
Without a doubt.
We're a great ape, and we are the most advanced great ape in the process of having opposable thumbs and a big brain. Yeah.
I mean, we live in a world like where I feel like the hunters, like a lot of hunters are, I mean, looked down upon because of, you know, shooting and killing animals and stuff. And it's just, that's not really we wouldn't be here if that wasn't the case.
That's true. Yeah. And you look at any population of people, right? You can, you know, there are stereotypes that people kind of, you know, they want to categorize people in, and hunters, unfortunately, have, you know, slipped down into having this. But a lot of other cultures that you go to, the hunters are revered, right? They're the village elders. They're the, you know, like if I spent time in several different Eskimo villages, and they're always really quick. And I'm not necessarily there hunting. I've spent a lot of time in villages doing research, and they're always quick to point out who the best hunters are in the village.
Oh, really?
Yeah, always. Really quick to point out, like, yeah, that's Joseph. He gets a moose every year.
Really?
He gets a moose every year. He's a really good fisherman. He gets his moose every year. You know, they're always, and you know, I did some work in Bangladesh, and there's no hunting in Bangladesh. I was there studying tigers, but the gentleman that I was working for, Dr. Dave Smith, he you know, he said, hey, if they bring up hunting, you can tell them about hunting, but just understand that these people here, they're not hunters. They're the biologists that you're working with. They're not against hunting, but they battle poachers all the time with tigers and spotted deer. And I said, yeah, I understand that. And then in talking to them, they said, hey, we don't hunt and we don't condone hunting here because our populations need to be worked on before we can actively hunt them. But they said all of our ancestors were the best were hunters. They do eat meat. Yep. Cattle and chickens, goats,
yep. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
Got it. What were you studying tigers? What were you doing?
In Bangladesh, I did a project in Bangladesh and a project in Nepal. The one in Bangladesh, we're in the Sundarbans. It's the world's largest mangrove swamp. Sits on the Bay of Bengal, and we were basically driving what looks like a gondola. We had a mothership that we would travel on the big systems, and then we would get on these little gondolas and we'd go up and down millions of miles of canals looking for tigers or tiger tracks called a pog mark. And so we're basically, every time we would see a tiger or a track, that's an event. And so we're trying to map out where the tigers are in the Sundarbans and how they're using it, and then trying to come up with some level of population.
Incredible.
It was.
How long were you there?
I just a couple of months there, and then I was a couple of months in Nepal. Yeah, and I wish I could experience that now, because it was when I was fresh out of college. And
where'd you go to college?
University of Minnesota. And so I just, I don't know, I just would appreciate it so much more now. But it's a really dangerous place.
I'm sure.
Yeah, Bangladesh is really dangerous. Lots of.
So what did you study in school?
Wildlife biology and then just scientific biology.
Were you hunting in college then too?
Oh yeah, yeah. I wasn't literally going to Alaska every year still, and I'd travel up to the Arctic Circle and go hunt caribou, and yeah, I remember I wasn't.
How did you get? Going to Alaska and Arctic Circle. That's a huge event. Like, how did you figure that out and get hooked up there? At such a young age.
I wanted to see caribou migrate, so I just started looking at where the herds were, and then where I could fly and kind of get to. And so I would fly into Anchorage, and I'd fly from Anchorage to Kotzebue, which is way up based on the Chukchi Sea, way up in the Arctic.
Were you doing this in the summers?
Nope, in the fall, in September.
While you're in school?
Yep. So I would take a couple of weeks off, and I go talk to all my professors and say,
hey, I'm going to
I have to go do this. Yeah. A couple of times I would lie. A couple of times I would say, hey, family emergency, or
gotta go.
Gotta go.
Yeah.
Yep. And then I'd come home and I would just buckle down. And I remember packing for a trip by candlelight because I hadn't paid my electricity, hadn't paid my water.
Yeah.
But I was going to Alaska
to
hunt caribou. Mm-hmm. Yep.
With a gun?
With a gun back then. Yep. Yeah. Because when I was younger, I wanted to be a rifleman. Right. That's everything was about being a marksman, learning guns, learning calibers. I was reading every book that I could, and I love rifles. I love shooting them. But once I started shooting a bow, and the quiet, and how close you have to get, and the fact that you have to lay, face down in the dirt for a long time to get close to an animal, and that engagement that I had in the beginning watching the black bear, me not shooting that bear, but watching him come, because he walked past me at 10 yards, and he fed on salmon at 10 yards. So watching him, archery hunting kind of brings you that, right? If you have a rifle, it's very easy to lay that, not easy, but to lay that rifle on a log or backpack, get on the bear, squeeze the trigger, you're successful.
Yeah.
With a bow, I have to crawl amongst those logs and get closer and closer. And in doing that, I open myself up to that experience of watching him really close and getting really close. And then also you're unsuccessful a lot, which kind of gives you that you get to keep working on your craft, and makes you, not to alienate women, but it makes you feel like a man, right? It's and then now I'm shooting a traditional bow, which is it's super rewarding watching that arrow flight.
And you gotta be within 20 yards, right? 30 yards.
With a trad? Yeah, within, for me right now, the way I'm shooting, and I'm working on my skill all the time, probably 30 yards, 35 yards I'm relatively comfortable with. But you have to be close, really close. 20 yards, 25 yards, that's a slam dunk for me with a trad bow.
And how fast are those things going?
That's a great question.
Because I mean, like the compound bows, I mean, you're 350, 300 feet per
these
second.
things are. That's a really good question, and it's probably
200?
around. No. It's probably around 200 feet per second. I don't know, but I'm shooting a pretty big heavy arrow, and my bow is 50 pounds, and I'm pulling.
So it does a trick.
Yeah.
You just gotta be tight.
Oh, it'll do the trick.
Yeah.
Like it'll, because it, every physics, every action has an opposite and equal reaction. So even though my arrow is going slow, it's tipped with a scalpel, and so when an arrow is going when a light arrow is going really fast, when it hits the animal, it meets a lot of resistance, right? Because it's traveling really fast and it doesn't have a lot of momentum to go through the animal. My arrow is traveling slow, so it has much less resistance. Plus, it's a scalpel. It's gonna blow right through.
Yeah.
Everything outside of a hippo or an elephant, rhino, is gonna blow right through.
Have you hunted in Africa?
No, I've been invited about 50, 60 times, but I've never been.
Don't want to.
Australia is the only. I was invited a bunch to Australia too. This guy would write me. His name's Nick Joyce. He'd write me. I showed you a photo of him last night. He'd write me all the time. Hey mate, I want you to come to Australia, and I would just kind of blow it off. I get invited to go a lot of places, and so finally he kept bugging me, and I said, all right, Nick, you tell me what you think. They have these animals. They're called Asiatic water buffaloes. They're introduced to Australia from Asia for food, and then they just kind of like taken over the country in Northern Territory. So finally I reached back to him. I said, Nick, you tell me about the buffalo, because I wanted to see if he was going to say, oh mate, they're big dumb animals, we need to kill as many as possible. But he didn't. He said, hey, he's like, mate, these things are amazing. They're fascinating. He's like, I know they get talked down about being big dumb animals, but he's like, they're anything but. They're very cunning. How they move around their space. He's like, they're very tough. They kill people every year. They're really really steadfast animal. They defend themselves with absolute force. And so his answer, I was like, yeah, I'm coming. And so we went up there and we lived in the bush. We would travel. I flew to Sydney, from Sydney to Darwin. From Darwin, I got in his Toyota Hilux. We drove 6 hours on pavement, then 6 hours on dirt. Then we hit the jungle and drove another 6 or 7 hours through the jungle. We had to cut trees down. We had to go through, we had to winch across rivers. And I look at Nick and I say, yeah, is there a lot of buffalo here? He's like, I don't know, I've never been here. And so we just kind of explored, and we ended up finding buffalo, and we ended up arrowing a really big buffalo that was, we were kind of in a dangerous situation, but it was incredible. Like watching my arrow he was 35 yards, and I'm not going to tell you he was coming to charge, but he was coming. They lower their head down and they kind of like touch their knee when they're feeling aggressive, and that's what he was doing. He's kind of lowering his shoulder, coming to us, and that was kind of now or never. And Nick showed me this little triangle that's perfect on them, and I came to full draw. And it's when the film comes out, it's going to be sick, because I had a guy filming right down my arrow shaft, and then another photographer, and basically like I had to kill the bull, or like if I messed it up, we're going to be in big trouble.
Really?
We didn't have a gun, and the nearest tree was probably 2 miles away. And so I just came to full draw, and he was just stepping, and I just found my spot and just boom, arrow away, and I don't know how much they weigh, 3,000 pounds, but my arrow buried to the nock. He whirled around, and he ran probably 20 yards and fell over dead in probably less than 10 seconds.
Really?
Yeah, maybe 8 seconds, 5 seconds. And
then what the hell do you do with the thing?
Well, you're basically, if I'm being honest, you basically just kill them. You're basically just killing them,
Gotcha.
right? We have no way to preserve meat. They're, according to Australia, they'd want you to kill them all, right?
Yeah.
They use them, they shoot them from helicopters. They're trying to, but
so like hogs in the South here.
yeah,
like
essentially.
Just get rid of them.
But what we did, I can't do that.
Yeah.
So so we went over there and we broke it down, and we had been seeing a lot of families of dingoes. In fact, we filmed a piece that is, we filmed dingoes pack hunting buffalo, which nobody had ever seen before. And like the dingo consulate called us after we released that footage, and they use it in documentaries over there, and they're
really?
just like, yeah, they had no idea that dingoes pack hunted buffalo, and we filmed it all one morning, and it was so haunting. But so we broke the animal down for the dingoes because they can't.
Yeah.
The hide is 1.5 inches. They can't
Yep.
get through it. So we broke it all down and laid it all out for these dingo families to come and feed. And then we took probably 20 pounds of it, and then we ate it over the next 2 weeks, which was really kind of interesting because it was 100 degrees every day, and we had no way to keep the meat, but we just hung it in the shade, and then every day we'd cut off of it and eat it.
Really good?
Yeah, it's fantastic. Each piece had really good flavor, and the bull that I killed, he was 15 years old. Every piece had tremendous flavor. Some of it you could chew and swallow. Some of it you just kept chewing, and then eventually you just had to like pull it out of your mouth and throw it in the bush. Yeah, because it was just some pieces were just too tough.
Pop quiz. How safe is your internet browsing? I bet you don't know, do you? You might not even be thinking about it, but you know who is? Hackers, advertisers, data companies. There are a lot of people who know what you're doing online. So let me help you out by hooking you up with my friends at IPVanish. IPVanish is a VPN, a virtual private network. You may or may not know what it is, but a VPN basically makes you invisible to all those prying eyes on the web. You just connect to IPVanish and then go browse wherever you want. And IPVanish encrypts your data to make sure your info like passwords and private details remain yours. You can use IPVanish on unlimited devices without sacrificing on speed, your computers, tablets, phones, even devices like your Fire Stick when you're streaming media. Whether I'm at home or in public, I don't go online anymore without using IPVanish. And right now they're offering an incredible 70% off their yearly plan for our listeners with a 30-day money-back guarantee. That's just like getting 9 months for free. Stop sharing your digital info with the world. Take your privacy back today with the brand rated 4.6 out of 5 on Trustpilot. So go to IPVanish.com/Cutler and use promotional code Cutler and claim your 70% savings. That's IPVanish.com/Cutler.
What's your favorite meat?
Either black bear or
Stop it.
Either black bear or mountain lion.
It.
Seriously, yeah.
What was the other one?
Mountain lion.
What is? First of all, both of those options are awful. Why would
they're
Why would you
fantastic.
choose either one of them? Have you had black bear or mountain lion, Travis? Okay. Anyway, Pete, we're gonna listen to this.
They're amazing. They're incredible. Okay, so
You're gonna have to walk me through this.
when I was in British Columbia hunting bears one time, and I was with some buddies of mine, and I said, hey, when we arrow a bear, we're eating it. And they said, man, like these bears stink. You don't have to take the bear meat in the spring. You can leave it.
Really?
So yeah, so legally you can just kill the bear, take the hide, leave the meat, and another bear will eat the meat.
Yeah,
but
because bears eat anything.
I'm not doing that. So I told them, I
Okay.
said, we're taking all the meat and we're gonna eat it. And they said, nah, mate, like the fat it stinks. They have worms. They have trichinosis. We're not doing this.
Yeah,
I
they
said,
have all the things.
I said, we're doing it. We're doing it. And so we kill this bear. We break it down. He's a big bear, an old bear, probably 7-foot black bear, 400 pounds. And so we take it back to the cabin. We're tenting. We're living on a boat, but now that we're successful, we're going back to a cabin.
Yeah.
And we cooked it up. And
How'd you cook it?
so we cut it down into chunks,
Cut.
cleaned the fat off of it, and then we basically put a crust on it of seasoning, seared it in oil and butter,
Cut.
and then put it in a crock pot with bone broth for 8 hours.
So Travis, if you don't cook bear meat long enough, it could kill you.
You'll get trichinosis.
Yes.
Yeah, you're gonna.
It's not. I mean, it can get bad real fast.
You'll get worms.
Yes,
Yeah.
you get worms.
Yeah. And it was amazing. And so it was really good. Really,
I mean-
and we ate the whole bear.
It's like a roast. It's like a
Yeah, it's just how, if you were to cut a steak off a bear, put no seasoning on it, throw it in a pan, it's probably still going to be really good, but it's not going to be as good as if you take the time to prepare it. But we take the time to prepare it, and the same thing with a lion. I busted these guys.
I've had bear. Like my dad likes eating bear, and I just can't get over the fact that they'll eat damn near anything.
Anything. And
Guts,
we ate a bear one time.
whatever.
I was arguing with a guy about this.
Yeah.
And
I mean, if you're gonna eat a bear, what stops you from eating like a coyote? It's the same
I
thing.
did a coyote.
Stop it.
Hey man, You don't want to be in an airplane crash with me and not make it because I'll eat your ass.
I mean, I'll eat. I mean, yes. I mean, but like, I'm not gonna do it just because. Like, if we're out there and like, I mean, we're up against it. Sure, I'll eat whatever it takes.
If we are camping,
Yes.
even if we had food, if we were camping and we killed a coyote and we spun it out, broke it down, and I cooked it, guaranteed you'd eat it.
Guarantee I would not eat it.
Absolutely you would. And you'd probably be looking at me like everyone else and saying,
Not a
no, I've
chance.
never eaten a coyote. But everything else that I've eaten, where guys were like, oh, you can't. The same when I killed that lion.
I've heard mountain lion is actually good.
Oh, it is unbelievable.
Really?
It's unbelievable. It's white meat, and it tastes like pork, except for with tons of flavor. And not gamey flavor, just tons of flavor.
I mean, I don't know if I'll try. I mean,
We cooked lion. Lions have trichinosis too, but we cooked.
Oh, they do?
Yeah.
I mean, of course they do. They eat whatever.
Predator, yeah. So we killed this lion, cooked him, and I asked the guides, the houndsmen and the other guys, I said, "Have you guys ever eaten a lion?" "Oh, yeah, we've eaten it. It's terrible. It's terrible. You can't eat it. It's terrible." I said, "Well, let me tell you something. If we kill a lion on this trip, we're eating it." "Oh, no, yeah, absolutely not. We're not." And I said, "But you've all eaten it." I caught them in a bald-faced lie. They said, "Yes, we've all eaten it." I said, "Okay." We went, killed a lion, broke it down.
Big lion.
Big lion.
Yeah.
Yep. Broke it down. And they were just standing next to me like, oh, the thing already stinks. I skin it out, break it down. We're hanging the meat. I cut a bunch. We take the back straps, the inner loins, and a whole hind quarter into the cabin. We're going to cook it for dinner. The back straps and the inner loin, we salt and pepper and put it on the grill and basically like make little medallions. They don't even make it to the kitchen table. Okay, all of these guys that have eaten lion and say it's disgusting, didn't even let it get to the kitchen table. It was gone.
Just crushed it.
Yeah. Then we just did a roast, exactly like we did the blackberry roast, and which was funny because we did a sheep roast, which sheep is really good eating.
Yeah.
We did
I
a
did
sheep roast, and we did a lion roast. And at the end of the night, some of the sheep roast was still left, and the lion roast was long gone. Yeah. And we had kind of that, that awkwardness when you have one piece of pizza left and everyone's still a little hungry. We had that happening with the lion roast. There was still a little bit of sheep roast, but guys would sit up with the, like the slotted spoon. Like they'd go through the gravy, like, oh, there's no more lion. And so then all of these guys, there's 3 of them, I shouldn't say all these guys. One of the guys was heading home to his family because we were done with the hunt. And he said, "Hey, do you mind if I take the rest of your lion home to my family?" And this is a guy that was, a week ago was telling me it was unedible.
Yeah.
And so we packaged it all up, vacuum packed it for him, broke it all down, and then he took it home to his family. And this guy lives in the bush, so.
I mean, of all the animals caribou, moose.
Moose
elk,
is fantastic. Elk's fantastic.
Elk's my favorite.
Yeah.
I'm going on my first moose hunt this fall in Maine.
In where?
Maine.
I am as well.
Really?
Yeah. I hunted Maine last year, and I'm going back again this year.
This is my first year to go this year.
I didn't know that. Yeah.
I'm excited. Never killed a moose.
What, are you there in the first season?
Yes.
First week of October?
Yes.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know where you're going?
No. It's on my phone. Somewhere northern Maine. I've never been to Maine.
Oh, it's amazing.
So I've heard.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, we used to travel up there when I was kids. We used to go up there fly fishing.
I've heard there's a bunch of moose up there.
Oh yeah, I killed one last year. I think we hunted and I think we killed like the 4th or 5th oldest moose in Maine last year.
Really?
Of the bulls that were killed, yeah. I think our bull was 11 and a half, something like that.
How old do they live?
About that, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, something like cows will live a little bit longer, but bulls, because they fight so much, they'll probably live, 12, 13.
What do you do with all that meat?
Eat it. I'm almost out.
Oh, really?
Well, I shared it with the crew.
Sure, yeah.
But I'm...
Take it back as much as you can?
Yeah, in fact, I just texted William Altman, our director of photography. I said, "Hey, how are you doing on moose meat? Because, I might have you..." Because he lives in Maine. So I told him I might have him ship a box to me because I'm almost out of mine. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't wait.
But when we killed it, it's a massive bull. We broke it down, and then I had to go. We were going to do some waterfowl hunting, so we broke it down to quarters, and then dropped it off at a local butcher. And he's like, I'll get it all butchered up, Donnie, and packaged for you. And I was like, great. And
That's a lot of meat.
I went back to his place, and I walk into the back of his shed, and he has these massive upright freezers. So I see one with my name on it, and I open the door, left to right, up and down, back to front. You could not put another package of meat. I mean, literally, it was a wall of meat in the exact shape of the freezer. Mm-hmm. And I opened the door and I looked back at him and I said, hey, which of this is me? And he's like, oh, all of it.
All of it.
It was like 650 pounds.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, it was a big bull. Yeah.
So I mean, an elk, like you'll only get, maybe 300 off of them.
Yeah.
250 or so.
It's and you're hunting, these are Canadian moose, eastern Maine Canadian moose. Mm-hmm. So they're measurably smaller than Alaska Yukon moose.
Oh, they are?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. They're, a big Alaska Yukon moose is 1,800 pounds. The animal you're going to kill there is going to be like 900, 950, something like that.
What's your favorite thing to hunt these days?
I mean, it's just about the hunt. It's where I go. I love whitetail deer, wild turkey. I love waterfowl hunting, love mountain hunting, love bear hunting. It's
just all of it.
Yeah, it's
just being out there more than anything.
Yeah, it's more the experience than what I'm hunting, right? Even, this is gonna sound silly, but even going on a squirrel hunt in, if I'm in the right place and experiencing the right things, it's incredible. Yeah.
What I'm sure you've been offered a million TV shows. Why did you never do one?
I didn't want to constrain the story down to 22 minutes, and I didn't want to deal with companies in the hunting industry. I didn't want to have to. Basically, the model in the hunting industry is you purchase airtime.
Yep.
So basically, you're buying yourself a TV show, and then you put your films together or your pieces together, your content, and then you have to go to companies, bow companies, gun companies, backpack companies, sell yourself, see if they'll give you a sponsorship. You record a commercial on your show, or they give you a commercial to air, and then you try to get these companies to cover your airtime, and then you keep the rest. And that was just, I had no interest in. I just wanted to tell stories.
When did you start filming hunts?
I filmed hunts all through college. I filmed all those hunts.
Oh, really?
The handy cam. Like get up in the morning and
so you were doing it then?
Hold the camera on me and
the little videotape ones?
Yep. Little Sony. This is day one. I saw a massive grizzly bear last night. The northern lights were out. That type of stuff. And then and I loved so I started doing it basically so I could just rewatch my experience and just take me back to that place.
Yep.
And then we started professionally filming them in 2011.
Is that when you started your production company?
Yep. I went and worked with another gentleman in his production company, and I didn't like him. I didn't like who he was. I didn't like how he treated the crew.
Yep.
And I didn't like how he treated the animals. And his experiences when he was hunting were vastly different than mine. And he was somebody that was kind of sold to me as he's just like you, Donnie. He burns for this stuff. Like you guys are gonna, and he's super talented with a camera. So you're gonna love him. Well, I didn't like him at all, and so I ended up basically, I say stealing, but I basically stole his employees and started a company.
Gotcha.
So both of the guys that worked with me worked for him.
I see.
In a, one was kind of like an internship, and the other one he was in the first. He had worked there for like 2 months.
Yeah.
And so I said, hey, all I said to those guys, I said, hey, I'm leaving. I'm going to start my own production company. And they both said, yep, just tell us where are we going? Yep. Yeah. And so the three of us left him, and it's been the three of us ever since. And we've added 3 more.
Wow.
And yeah, it's just, we have a full-time musician, a couple of photographers, and editor, and yeah, it's just.
What was the first big one you guys did? River Divide?
Rivers Divide, yeah.
That was a great one.
It was a cool project to put together, and we had no idea what we were doing. I had no idea what we were doing.
It was over, a couple years?
2 years, yeah. I hunted that deer. Yeah, I hunted him for a couple of days, and then ended up getting a shot at him, and that was the biggest deer I'd ever seen, really up to that point, and to see him so close. Like we were in a tree stand, but it was just like 10 feet off the ground in this little
really?
tiny. Yeah, because all the trees were just tiny. So
I remember, like it was a small little
woodlot.
Little, yeah.
Yeah, and so he just snuck through, and it was kind of raining, and I don't have good hearing.
We learned that yesterday.
Yeah, we learned that yesterday. And so I was in this tree, and William Altman was filming me, and he turned his head, and he said, and this deer had a nickname of Steve from someone else named it, and so he turned his head, and he just said, Steve. And I said, what? And he said, Steve. And I said, what? And he said, Steve is right here. And so I just kind of peeked past him. And he's at like 5 yards.
Oh, really?
Literally right there. And so seeing this old 6.5-year-old, absolutely, just stunning animal right there. And it was really bright colors that day because it was overcast and rainy. And then he walked out, and you've seen the film. And then after that, it became this kind of conquest of where and I watch it now.
You missed him.
I missed him. Yep.
High.
Yeah, missed him. Well, down and low, but yes, missed him.
And then you stuck him in the shoulder.
In the shoulder at 35 yards because I was just having a meltdown.
Yes.
A mental misfit.
And then you went in the meltdown of like you basically can't shoot anymore.
Yes. Yeah. Full. I went down a road of full target panic.
Yeah.
Went down a road of not being able to execute a shot process at all, and then I had to.
Had that ever happened before?
No. This was the beginning and the middle, and I actually thought about just walking away from my career, and I started doing a lot of.
No kidding.
Oh yeah, and I started doing a lot of research.
Bad?
Yes, and I actually read about Fred Bear that he looked into shutting down bear archery because he had target panic so bad late in his career, and so I just started reading every book I could on the human mind and kind of what it goes through and Olympic shooters, and I retrained myself to have zero target panic. And
How so?
So it was really weird.
Okay.
If I would shoot my bow with no sight on it,
okay.
I had zero target panic. So I could come to full draw, wrap my finger around the trigger, put my arrow towards the target, right, because I don't have a sight, and then just pull through and have a very crisp, uninitiated release. Yeah. But if I put that sight on there and that pin, that pin's relationship with the bullseye, I just tried to time everything. And so once I realized that aim, my friend Joel Turner, I've worked with him a lot. He's my archery coach. But and he always says aim, watch it to keep it, but then you kind of leave that process of aiming. It's you leave it alone. Once you find your aim, you keep that sight picture, and then you start articulating through your release, right? So I just retrained myself by shooting thousands of arrows, but I refused to shoot an arrow unless it was a surprise release. And so I bought a Carter Honey 2 release. It has no trigger. And so I just has a safety, and I would click the safety off, and I would just literally pull through my release. And if the bow went off, then it went off. And if it didn't go off, then I would click the release back or the safety back on and let down. And I just did that for thousands of arrows until I was so comfortable with the recoil, with the, this explosive event that happens right next to your face. I was so comfortable with it that I could start shooting again. And it's now how I shoot everything that way now. Rifle, pistol. Like I was just shooting targets the other night. I was shooting, like a pie plate with a iron sight pistol at like 65, 70 yards the other night, just because I'm just aiming. I find my aim, and then I'm just squeezing through my trigger and just ding, and just, and that's how I shoot everything now. And so then I met Joel Turner. Do you know who Joel?
I've heard of him.
Yeah, he runs Shot IQ. He basically was going through the same thing. He had target panic from when he was a little kid, and then he started looking in the human mind, and he really found the back door, if you will. He really found what is the short circuit, and so he built a training program called Shot IQ, and he has an online course, and he's my full-time archery coach. He's a rifle coach. He's, and he's just unbelievable about teaching this process. But I'd already retrained myself when I met him, but just now working with him, it's.
Do you think if you would have dropped Steve that first time, that it never would have happened?
No, it would have come.
It would have
come. Yeah, because these big events, I was letting my own mind own me, right? Let's say you and I went out and shot right now, and I'm sitting there going, oh my God, I'm shooting today with Jay Cutler. Like, God, I want to hit the bullseye. And so what I'm doing is I'm trying to take my pin, for anyone that doesn't understand this, I'm trying to kind of do this drive-by. I'm trying to, rather than just let my pin hover, I have, you have this idea that you're a man or a woman, whatever, and you have to keep your pin perfectly still on the bullseye, and then you...
Which is almost impossible.
It is impossible.
Yeah.
And so really the secret is letting your subconscious mind aim for you. And so you make that wiggle as small as possible, and then you forget about it, and you just keep that wiggle as small as possible, and then you articulate your release back here, or pistol, rifle, whatever, and then you just, I have this process. So I come to full draw, I get my sight picture, I aim, and then this is what I do. I go, I don't say it out loud, but I go, pull, and then when, the string just goes, pull,
some point it just goes.
pop,
Yeah.
and like, I don't know when it's going to go off.
Yeah.
It just goes off, and whoop, the arrow's in the middle. And that little wobble, like my mind, essentially the subconscious, knows when that crosshair is just coming back up to the bullseye, and that's it. Just
it's like, I mean, there's a lot of things. There's a book I read a long time ago. It's like The Mental Game of Tennis or something like that. But it's basically the more you let your mind into these type of things, the more it gets messed up. So like anything, sports, anything you're basically doing, like your body knows mentally how to
it wants
do
a shortcut.
Yes.
Yeah. And so Joel does this thing. It's really cool. Whenever he's teaching class, he always goes, hey, who in here knows how to shoot a pistol? And there's always some guy that's like, yeah, I shoot a lot. And he's like, oh yeah, cool, get up here. And then he's like, show me your stance. And he's a SWAT team instructor too. So he has this guy, he's like, ooh, good stance. Okay, good, all right. So then he takes his hand, and it's really funny. He's like, you're a good shooter, right? And the guy's like, yeah, I'm pretty good. And he takes his hand while he's talking to the class, and he just keeps slapping and the guy's just sitting there going, "Phew, phew." He's like, yeah. And so this guy's shooting, right? And he's just shooting. Then he brings his hand and he misses the guy on purpose, and the guy goes,
Yeah.
and he's like, oh, what are you doing there? He's like, and that's what you're trying to get rid of.
Yeah.
You have to get rid of that, because that push is your timing when the gun's gonna go off. You're timing to push against that recoil.
Yeah.
And when you do that, you're pushing literally everything off. So if you can harness the calm of just keeping your iron sights or your crosshair and you just keep it bouncing on the bullseye or on the animal, and then you just pull, pum, and it goes off, like, you start to really love that explosion. Like when I shoot a rifle, I went through.
You just accept the.
Yeah, you welcome it, like like
the recoil.
Give it to me.
Yeah.
Like a lot of guys, when they shoot a rifle, they're really holding on to that pistol grip. But I went and took a sniper course with Kalen Wojcik. He has a thing called Modern Sniper. He's an amazing shot. He's a scout sniper. I have a couple buddies that are scout snipers, and so they made the introduction. But he was showing me proper technique to shoot rifles, and so I'm keeping my thumb now off to the right side and my cheek is just buried onto the stock. And I just find that crosshair, my cheek is just in there. I click the safety off, and I'm literally just going through the trigger pull.
You say you keep your thumb off of it?
Yeah, I keep my thumb off to the right.
So you're literally just one finger.
Literally one finger, and looking through I see my sight picture and just,
Yeah.
and we're shooting like 1,200 yards or whatever, and so he makes me we hike up in the mountains. He's holding onto my belt. I'm hanging over a cliff. He's like, okay, you see that little steel target down there? And I'm like,
let it fly.
Yeah. He's like, okay, now. So I'm same thing. I'm shooting straight down, he's trying to get the heights in my mind. So I'm just sitting there and just, boom, ding. And it's cool, when we're shooting long distance, I'm just sitting there and gun goes off, and I turn and look at him, and he already has a huge smile on his face because he watched the bullet hit through a scope, and then we hear the ding,
ding.
And so that whole event with Steve, and it was funny because William, when you film a hunt like this, when you film a story, you do things that are not natural. So, for instance, if I'm going to go shoot my bow, I don't just go shoot my bow. We find this is, okay, so we find a pretty place to shoot the bow, and it's, I mean, who doesn't want to shoot their bow in a pretty place anyway? So we find we set the scene, just like making a movie. We set the scene, shooting a bow, and so then, William's filming it from far, medium, and then he's going to film it close. So I come to full draw, and I have my trigger, and he's like, okay, Donnie, just wrap your finger around the trigger, and then just pull it as slow as possible. I'm like, okay. So I wrap my finger around the trigger, and I just go, as soon as my finger gets on the trigger, I shoot it. And he's like, oh, okay, no, don't shoot it. So then I couldn't, Jay, and this was the beginning of it. I could not, as soon as my finger hit that trigger,
it's gone.
I instantly went into this rush mode, and then, I retrained myself. And now everyone that shoots anything, pistol, rifle, bow, needs to contact Joel, needs to take his course. I think most people do not shoot weapons correctly or well, and most people, I think, suffer from this anxiety of shooting, particularly when they're around a group of guys.
Oh gosh, yes, it's a lot of pressure.
There's a lot of pressure,
and it's a lot of pressure shooting on film too.
Oh, tremendous.
Because you're what you do, like you're basically hunting like one mature animal.
Yes.
And you get maybe once, maybe twice.
Maybe.
Best case scenario.
Yeah, and sometimes like you're sitting there, like when we're hunting sheep, there's 3-4 of us.
Yeah.
Everyone has 85 pounds on their back.
Yeah.
And we just climbed 6,000, we hiked 25 miles to get here, and we just climbed 6,000 vertical feet. And there's the ram at 65 yards.
And they're counting on you to make the shot.
And, and you're going to get one opportunity, and then if you mess up that shot, you have to turn around to the other two guys and be like, we have to head back.
Sorry, boys.
Yeah. And so it's just, it's a lot. But you teach yourself this process, and it's a really rewarding way to shoot.
And now you're doing it with a traditional bow, which is even harder.
Yeah.
You made it even harder. You went from gun, compound, and now you're shooting a stick with a string on it.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what makes it tricky with the trad bow. Like Joel always says, he's kind of a jackass about it, but I'll say, yeah, I can shoot out to about 30 yards. He's like, why does distance matter? Well, distance matters because everything has to be perfect, and you have to know your aiming point out to these certain distances.
Sure.
And if anything is wrong, your arrow is off too much to take an animal's life. And so, you just have to, like, for instance, right now for me, 30 yards and under, it's like every time I shoot, the arrow lands in the kill zone, aside from if I have, some sort of, like just a horrible shot, like, something goes wrong or whatever. But.
Uncut with Jay Cutler is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Most of you listening right now are probably multitasking. Yep, while you're listening to me talk, you're probably also driving, cleaning, exercising, or maybe even grocery shopping. But if you're not in some kind of moving vehicle, there's something else you can be doing right now. Getting an auto quote from Progressive Insurance. It's easy, and you can save money by doing it right from your phone. Drivers who save by switching to Progressive save over $700 on average. And auto customers qualify for an average of 7 discounts. Discounts for having multiple vehicles on your policy, being a homeowner, and more. So just like your favorite podcast, Progressive will be with you 24/7, 365 days a year, so you're protected no matter what. Multitask right now. Quote your car insurance at Progressive.com to join the over 27 million drivers who trust Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Companies and Affiliates. National annual average insurance savings by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive between June 2020 and May 2021. Potential savings will vary. Discounts not available in all states and situations.
I talked to, Cam Haynes. Like he shoots out to like 300. It's absurd.
Yeah.
Like literally absurd.
Yeah, and he just lets his to people it looks like Cam's shooting 300 yards, but to Cam, he's just letting his pin bounce at a different, so the target's there, and he knows that if he aims at the top of this telephone pole, his arrow's going to be about there at 300 yards. So he just lets his pin, he's not aiming at 300 yards, he just lets his pin bounce around at the top of the telephone pole and does his release, and lo and behold, there it is in the balloon at 300 yards.
That's crazy.
Now, the stuff that I don't understand, and I really don't, is like the guys that have that, and I don't even know what it is, I guess it's just maybe timing or whatever, but like the guys that can shoot through like the center of lifesavers, or like they can throw a dime and shoot a dime out of the air. Like, I can throw a dime up and shoot close to the dime every time, but hitting the dime every time, hitting an aspirin every time, like these trick shooters, I don't know how they do that.
I don't either.
Yeah.
That's different.
Yeah. And I saw a girl the other day shooting, she did a handstand, and she was holding her bow with
her feet?
With her feet.
Yeah.
And she shot through like a little tiny ring at 30 yards and just absolutely smoked. Like, how you do that, I don't even, she doesn't even have a sight picture. So I don't know how they do that.
I don't either.
Yeah. And then like the Dude Perfect guys, I got to meet the guys from Dude Perfect. And
like my boys they're in love with those guys.
Oh, and so I met Tyler.
Yep.
And I asked
they hunt.
Oh, a lot. Yeah, that's
yeah.
how I met them. I met them through True Velocity. Mm-hmm. And so we were down there filming a bunch of military guys and shooting a bunch of test ammunition. And Tyler is he's an investor in True Velocity. And so he came out to like check stuff out. And so I asked him, and he gave me a little bit of the secret sauce. And so I was like, come on, tell me, how do you guys do this? And
what do they have, like 1,000 takes?
Yeah, they have 1,000 takes, but but think about it. That's the amazing part, because they are willing to look into the camera 1,000 times and be like, this is the grocery cart shot. And, oh, nope. This is the grocery cart shot.
Oh, yes.
Oh, nope.
Keep doing it.
And with the same enthusiasm, because when they make it, that's the cut.
That's the one.
Now he said, he told me, he's like, there's sometimes where they'll blindfold, like walk out onto a basketball court and, hook shot, and it goes in the first time.
Yeah.
But they said sometimes it takes 1,000 takes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're coming to Nashville, I think in July, and my boys are dying to go, so.
And they're such.
They're good dudes.
I've only met the one guy, but they just seem like they'd give you the shirt off their back. And, yeah.
I mean, it's amazing what they've done. Their brand, like, it's absurd.
Yeah, I mean, doing, jackass stuff with Nerf guns and building it into, and it's just such good. It's such good content.
Yeah, clean stuff. I mean, they're based. I mean, they're doing a stadium tour now.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to Bridgestone.
Yeah.
And it's sold out.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing.
And doing it live.
And doing it live.
Yeah.
Which I don't know how they're going to pull this off, but it's be interesting.
No, I'm sure there's some tensions around that, but it's
So what do you what hunts do you have coming up?
Maine moose. I did it last year, and we filmed, and I just want more body in that work, right? Like some of our films, like the Other Side, our bear film.
Yep.
We filmed that over 7 years, and all over Alaska, British Columbia, and
7 years?
7 years, yeah.
What's the longest you've been up there before?
Slept in a tent, 5.5 months.
Why?
Well, that was doing research. That I was studying salmon for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. But longest hunt I've done staying in a tent is 30-some days. And it was incredible. And it was, I mean...
You said that the Alone people contact you all the time. Do you think you think you could win that show? Probably, right?
I do, yeah.
I mean, you kill one animal and you're good to go.
Kind of. It's not nearly as easy as people think. The biggest issue that I would have is I'd have to learn how to build a shelter with a fireplace. I've never done that. I don't know how to do that. I would have to look into a way to build a stone fireplace and build my shelter around it so that my shelter wouldn't burn
down.
But yet I could burn heat, and then shooting the recurve, setting snares, shooting the recurve, fishing. Like if you are in an area with animals, they might drop you in an area where you don't see anything.
Yeah.
And you run out of food, like the jig's up, man.
It's over.
Yeah, you have 30 days without food, and you're going to be in, maybe 45, but you're going to be in rough shape.
Yeah.
And but yeah, if I got my shelter right and killed even if there's animals there, like I'm winning.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'll just literally.
And you have no problem being alone and being out
Zero.
there. Yeah.
Zero. And none of that, nothing. The only thing that scares me when I'm out there alone is weather. That's the only thing that, like when a big storm blows in, that's what gets my hackles up. And when the tent is, like we set a tent up. It seems I'll learn, but I haven't learned yet. Like we'll land in a little airplane on a mountaintop, pick out a beautiful place. Like okay, caribou are coming through here, moose hunting or whatever. Okay, let's set the tent up here. Bluebird day, beautiful. Okay, this hillside will protect us from, 3/4 of the directions. No, always blows 70 the one direction, and always wake up in the middle of the night. Teepee is literally, because we sleep in a floorless teepee. Wall is completely caved in, metal rod is bending, burning through, like literally, augering down through rock, and then we'll have to move down below and
Figure it out.
Yeah, and it's just, but weather is, I mean, if you had animals or caught fish, snared snowshoe hares or whatever it is, wherever you are, arrowed a moose, muskox, black bears, what some of these people like,
You're good.
good to go. Yep.
I also saw a thing like where you were surrounded by wolves that time.
I've done that a couple of times.
Yeah, that's what you said.
It's incredible. Yeah. I say this, I said it
Were you worried at all?
No.
For those watching, Donnie's got a shot where like he's basically just, you were just on the ground and surrounded by wolves.
Yeah, so we were stalking a bull moose, and so were they. And so we bumped into each other. And so I saw something white through the alders, and there's no trees where we are. It's just like 10-foot tall brush. So I see something white, and so I stopped. It's me, Chris Kirkby, and William Altman. And I stopped and I was like, hey, I see the moose. I thought it was his paddle that I could see. And so I leaned out around this alder and I looked, and it was a not white, but a very light gray wolf. And she was just sitting there, just proper, like a dog just sitting there looking at me. I was like, oh, hey, it's a wolf. And so I said, William, wildlife footage is everything. Right? So I said, William, sneak around this. And she's only 20 yards away. I said, sneak over there and see if she'll let you film her. So he sneaks around, and it's kind of like, it reminded me of Jurassic Park with the velociraptors, where the one lets you see.
Yeah.
And so we're staring at her and filming her, and then all of a sudden she stands up and walks away, and he's like, oh, that was so cool, she was right there. And then all of a sudden there's one right here, and so it's funny because the three of us were like, oh, how'd she get there so fast? And then oh no, she's back, and here's this one, and there's two, and it's really haunting how they do it. But it's almost like a horror film. You look at the alders, and then you just see their golden eyes, like they're not moving, they're hunting, right? They're not necessarily hunting us, but they're just, you see them and they're like, oh, there's one, and then they started coming in, and they're communicating with one another. They're going, and they come in right around us. I mean, they're 4 or 5 yards, and Chris Kirkby, who's a really good photographer, he's freaking out, and he swore, he doesn't swear that much, and he swore at me, and he said, we don't have a gun, we just have a bow, and he said, and he looked at me, and he's looking all around, and he's like, why aren't you freaking out? I said, hey, we're fine, because I was looking at the wolves, I wasn't looking at them. I said, hey man, Chris, we're fine. He's like, why aren't you knocking an arrow? Like, I said, hey man, calm down. Like, we're totally fine. Like, they're just checking us out. And then, they checked us out and they moved off. We saw them again. Later that day, we kind of bumped into each other again. But years before that, I was up there doing research when I was sleeping in the tent for 5 months. And I had a group of wolves move into my research camp, because I have gear on the river for working on salmon. And so after the salmon would spawn, their carcasses would come down and hang up on the gear. So the wolves were feeding on the dead fish. And so I ended up spending about 2 months with a small pack for 4 or 5 wolves.
Really?
And they were there they would. And I did. I'm not proud to admit this, but I tried to feed them a few times salmon. Like, I tried. They would never take it from my hand. They would get like 4 or 5 yards away.
You try to like dance as wolf with it.
Yeah, and then
Costner.
It started with one female, and it was really cool because I would howl at her, she would howl back at me, and then we just had a really cool engagement. And I'd go fly fishing, she'd kind of come with me.
Really?
And I was telling this to Rogan, and I go, yeah, Joe, she would walk like 2 feet behind me, and he's so matter of fact. He's at the table, and he's like, Donnie, 1 foot. 2 foot. And I go, okay, Joe, maybe 1.5 feet. And he's like, come on. And I'm like, she literally would walk right behind me, and it was funny because when...
So your pet dog.
when she would walk behind me, if I didn't make eye contact, she would just kind of like, she'd sniff the air. She'd walk behind me and just go. But if I made eye contact, she would snarl.
Really?
She would show her teeth. And so I'm sure she was just posturing. Like if I made eye contact, she's like, hey, like, we're not friends here.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't touch me.
Yeah.
If you come at me, you're, you know.
It's on.
It's on, yeah. So, and then all of a sudden there was another wolf. And then I had a wolf howling on, we would set up these planks in the research camp so that we weren't walking on the tundra because your footprints will impact the tundra for hundreds of years by just stepping on it.
Really?
Yeah, and so we would build these planks to walk on. So it'd be a log, like a Lincoln log, log and a 2x4. And so we just like balance beam to all the different, like to the research tent, to the kitchen, to all these different things. And so I have a balance beam that goes to my tent, and then my tent is on this little platform of boards, and that raises up above the tundra. And so one night, a wolf howled sitting on my platform, and it woke me from a dead sleep, and I grabbed my shotgun and I put one in the chamber, and I was just sitting there kind of panting like something woke me up, something right here. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, I unzipped my vestibule a little bit and I looked out and I could see this massive wolf sitting right there on the platform. And I thought it was her, but then when I saw the size of this dog, I was like, oh, that's not her. Like this is a much larger animal than she was. Mm-hmm. And that was, so the first time I saw her for 2 or 3 days. Then he showed up, and then I think there was 2 others, maybe 3 others. I never saw all of them at once, so I had to kind of look at their markings. And then the other thing that happened that was really uncommon in my life is I would go on long hikes for exercise, and they would freaking go with me sometimes.
Really?
So they'd stay out like 100, 200 yards, but they would literally flank me, and like they would just go on this giant walkabout too, and then they would disappear, and then I wouldn't see them for 2 days, and then they'd show up again. And yeah.
I mean, I guess with the amount of time you spent out there,
that's what it is.
It's not that.
No, that's what it is. It's just when, and that's the thing. Like when I go on these 30-day hunts, that's the thing. It's like you get there and the bugs are bad, the leaves are all green, the grass is tall and green, and in 30 days, you're leaving and everything's frozen. The leaves have already went through their full transition of color and have fallen off. Yeah. The moose have went through having dark chocolate velvet on their antlers to stark white antlers and going through the whole breeding season. It's just, when you're in the Arctic, 30 days is fall.
Really?
30 days, you're experiencing all of fall, from summer to winter. Yeah, in 30 days. So if you get there September 1st, which I've done, and then you leave October 1st, I mean, you're showing up and probably hunting in a t-shirt or a light rain jacket, and you're leaving potentially in a blizzard.
Really?
Yep.
That fast?
That fast, 30 days.
Jeez.
Yep.
That's wild.
It's crazy.
It really is.
Yeah.
All right. Where can people find you?
DonnieVincent.com is, I need to be better about getting myself out there. I need to be better about social. You
got a lot of cool stuff to offer. You got to get better at it.
I do. I kind of, it's oddly enough, I'm a private person. Yeah. And I do things every day that I think, like right now, I'm sitting here with Jay Cutler in your studio, and I don't have any photographs of this, but it'd be really interesting to tell my audience that I did this today, and I just need to get better at it. Yeah, I wish I could just communicate and just get it done, but it's I enjoy the writing. I love the writing.
You're an incredible writer.
I appreciate that, but I just need to get better at sharing my life with people, there's gear that I want to build. There's, I'd love to take new people hunting and new experiences. And I'm very easily entertained by being outside.
It's an amazing world out there.
It is, yeah.
All right, DonnieVincent.com. You can find Donnie on Instagram. He's got a bunch of cool films. You got a bunch of stuff coming out. Client work starts to kind of take over, but I just hired a second editor, so we're going to start really buckling down on films. Pushing some stuff out.
I probably have 5 or 6 films complete right now that we just have to build, and I have to write, and we have to come out.
I'm excited that let's get writing. Let's get them out there.
Yeah,
We need some new stuff.
We're gonna do that. Yeah, I would love to have a body of work. Like by the time, I don't know when I'm gonna die, but it's probably not going to be of old age. But I'd love to have a body of work that people can enjoy after.
I mean, you have a body. I mean, just keep doing it.
Yeah, and we'll keep after it.
Cool. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it very
fun.
much. This is a very uncommon opportunity for me to sit down and speak with a gentleman like you, and you know, it is not lost on me. It's definitely been my pleasure.
Oh no, it's mine. Check out Donnie. I mean, even if you're not a hunter or anything, his work will probably open your eyes, inspire you a little bit. It's actually art. It's true art, and it's not many people do it the way he does it, especially in the hunting industry. So check him out, and you'll be happy you did.
Thanks, man.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Cool.